you. We're just going to get right into our smasher passes. And I will let you start this off. Why don't you give me your first one off the top?
So my first smasher pass for you, I want to talk about Keith Mitchell this week. There's a lot that's been going on with him. Smasher pass on Keith Mitchell.
I feel like people are not going to love this answer from me, but I am actually going to pass on Keith Mitchell this week. Where are you at?
I really like Mitchell. I think he's one of the better players on the board for a couple reasons. And, if we look at the recent form, obviously that's not going to look great, but he's gained a whopping 6.74 shots ball striking over the 2 rounds that he put together in Scotland. That was a total that would have projected him as a top 5 option on the leaderboard when I added in his baseline short game statistics over his actual performance. Unfortunately for him, the short game went south. He lost 6.83 shots with that facet of his game. We can talk about the inflation that's going to take place here in total driving. There's 15 holes that will have water that comes into play. You get this deflation in around the green returns. I think that makes Mitchell a really natural boost candidate that can work his way up the leaderboard. Number 1 in my model in total driving. He's number 1 on the tour in total driving also, but specifically for this venue, he's number 1. He experienced an 18 position improvement in projection here versus a random course on tour when I used his weighted proximity. I think there's more upside to be had. I think if we're talking specifically DFS and in GPP sort of contests, nobody's going to play him, as you said. We've seen the same situation come into play in the outright market where he has drifted from 40-1 to these 55-1 numbers out there. I grabbed him at 40-1 early in the week. Didn't get the best of the number there, but I'm going to go back to the well because I think there's a lot of upside to be found on him.
Yeah, and I think that I will agree with you. I would be okay with playing him in DFS. It's funny because if you were to look at my notes, I very much am advocating for him, but then I have a fat no next to his name, which is pretty standard for me. I think he was probably like top 40 in my model, just didn't rate out that well. I do get it. His short game has never been awesome, but I think that this course fit is quite nice for him. So I can get behind it. We're not going to agree on everything. That's all right. I'll give you a name. Let's see. I'll give you a name that we've talked about in the past a lot. This was one of my just right off the bat clicks. Not a guy that's playing well. We haven't really heard much of him since the beginning of the season. Where are you at here? Smash or pass Tom Hoge. Where are we going with him?
I think Hoagie's an intriguing candidate to consider this week in various iterations of the market. So, I guess I'll give the outright answer to it, and you can talk to me about what markets you like him for, and I'll talk a little bit about DFS also. But he's one of those players that has positive upside when I ran this tournament for pure win equity with it. Obviously, the safety features are going to be a little bit more obscure on what I'm looking for. Like there's been a lot of missed cuts from him recently. He missed the cut last week. He missed the cut at the Rocket Mortgage. He missed the cut at the US Open.
Okay, Spence, I know.
So the tournament still, like the point that I'm trying to make there is those are much more challenging courses than we get here. All of a sudden now we move this back into the mix to where the ball striking that he has, the weighted proximity totals, all of that we're looking for, that's where this upside comes into play. And I don't think we're going to have a ton of people wanting to go to him. I see him right now at about 6% ownership at his $7,500 price tag. I wouldn't necessarily be playing him for the safer contests out there. I don't think he's naturally the greatest head-to-head wager or a top 40 bet. But if you want to push him up the board a little bit into like a top 10, a top 20, a bet to win this tournament, I think there's a lot worse ways that you could invest your money than taking a shot with somebody who is, no matter what field you put him in, one of the best iron players. And now where there's this benefit where you get this 4.4% dispersion of scoring increase when it does come to strokes gain approach, plus the accuracy that he's going to bring to table. Like there's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, I think I would not recommend to others to take him as this long shot, 90-1, 70-1. I'm not sure where the odds have moved on him, but I think that plus 750 for a top 10 with a guy that always has, like we've said this before, like he could win at almost any tournament once within reason. He has good course history here. He's made 3 of 4 cuts, 2 top 20s. He rates out well stat wise. And you see this where he played very well in the beginning of the season. Then you have a sporadic top 20 and it hasn't looked pretty recently, but maybe pressure's down. And if he can play like the Tom Hoagie when he does, end up finishing well, I'm kind of in on him for a top 10 plus 750. I like that number there.
Yeah, I think that's a good number grab. That's kind of the best way, in my opinion, to try to get exposure to him is just shoot for the moon. And maybe you're right. You don't need to shoot for like the ultimate win equity for him to win this tournament. And that number has drifted ever so slightly. I mean, obviously you can shop around and find different prices. For the most part, like when I took the aggregated totals, he was 66 to 1. He's now 75 to 1 in the market. I didn't get there either for an outright, but I do think a top 10 is probably the best way to consider him.
All right. What do you got for the next one?
I mean, how gross do you want to get on these names this week, Stephie?
We can get gross. It's a Wednesday at 3 p.m. We can do whatever we want here.
All right. Let's go with somebody that's going to be very gross down on the bottom of the leaderboard. Kevin Roy.
Okay.
I guess I will give you an option on him of where I am putting him, and then you can kind of answer it from there of what you think. But Kevin Roy 4-1 on a top 40.
Okay, so ironically, he is also on my Smash or Pass list. I actually very much like him. He rated out very well for me. His ball striking, I think, is going to bid him very well here. So I am actually very much in on Kevin Roy. Not a name. That was kind of where I left it. That was one of the gross names I wasn't necessarily going to bring up, but you brought it up, so we can go there. Why do you like Kevin Roy this week?
Yeah, kind of for the ball striking reasons that you mentioned. There's that reduction I keep talking about in strokes gained around the green. Like essentially, if you miss, there's a lot of weeks where you can scramble and you can scramble your way out of problems. These are really big green complexes that will reward some of the better ball strikers. But the problem is when you miss, you're in the bottom of the lake. You can't scramble your way out of the bottom of the lake. So all of a sudden, these concerns that Kevin Roy and a Gary Woodland or any of these players that you want to talk about that may have these suspect short games that don't always perform the way that you want. All of a sudden, you throw them at on this venue where they're going to have the total driving ability that you're looking for. The weighted proximity, like Roy for me is 17th in expected scoring on this course. He's also 17th in ball striking. For a guy who's 4-1 to land in the top 40, you're obviously going to have some concerns that come into play just with how volatile he is. But water courses possess volatility anyways for every single golfer. And I'd rather find the name that's not being adequately priced because we just view Kevin Roy of what Kevin Roy has been or what Kevin Roy is and not necessarily what Kevin Roy can be on this specific golf course. So thought 4-1 was a really intriguing price for him. And that's kind of how I decided to make my wagers this week in the placement market. Everybody I took because of that water volatility, they're all 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 type of shots. I don't need to hit everybody, but if one or two starts coming in, all of a sudden we're talking about a big week there.
Right. And I think with a majority of these golfers, you're going to get this conversation. It's not the strongest field, right? There's going to be a conversation about this, even with the guys that are considered the top of this, top of the field. So I'm going to go to someone that I actually don't know that we've ever touched on him before, but where are you at? I'll give you the number too. How about Doug Ghim, top 30 plus 175?
My model really likes Ghim. I have been burned by Ghim so many times that I almost have like this. It's so hard for me to jump back into the mix with him. I think he makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, 2 top 20s at this venue over the 3 years that he's played it. Let's take away his last tournament where he missed the cut. 26th at the John Deere, 15th at the Travelers, 12th at the RBC Canadian Open. It's kind of that prototypical ball striker that we're trying to find for this course where he fits all the metrics that you're looking for. I think that a top 30 is probably, or maybe even a top 20 would be like my preferred way to play it just because you move it up a little bit from that top 40 zone. But
yeah, absolutely.
I'll say smash on it. I don't have a problem with him. I just know that Ghim is highly volatile and it's, it is what it is with it.
Everyone's volatile. So,
but I will say this: I think he's better for this sort of a wager than probably for DFS, just because he's going to be so popular.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think so too. I know a lot of people are not putting too much emphasis on putting. Everyone's kind of split down the middle with how they feel with that. He's gained strokes putting in 7 of his last 10 starts. He ranks out just really well across the board as far as strokes gained, you name it. He's been playing fine. He's playing good golf. He's playing
like
like Doug Gim. Yeah, he's playing like true Doug Gim. So I'm in on him. I like that top 30. I actually would be interested to see what that top 20 number looks like, because I'm kind of with you. I think that that's probably the better way to play him, get a little bit more on that. I don't know that I will be in on him for a DFS, but
yeah, that's my mentality kind of with this week, is just trying to either, like, obviously a Kevin Roy is different because if you're getting 4-1 on a top 40, like you already have that baked in number that's coming to play. Like, I'm trying to push players further up the board,
right.
For all the reasons that I've talked about, and kind of just get these larger prices. But yeah, I think a top 20 on Doug Gim is certainly intriguing.
Fair. All right. Who you got next here?
All right, so I am going to, sometimes I like to switch up who I'm playing and who I'm not playing,
Okay.
which gives it away, but smash or pass on Sahith Theegala.
I feel like, I mean, everyone kind of at this point that's watched how I feel about him is, I think when he wins, it's going to be a much bigger tournament than we have this weekend. He has not been playing well. I worry about the water here with him. It would be surprising to me if he came in and had a fantastic week. So I actually would love to look at what some matchups are for him this week. That's probably where I would play it. If he does well, awesome. I love him, but not exactly where I see him succeeding.
Yeah, I that was the first thing I looked for this week. There were two golfers that I wanted to try to find if there were ways I could take them on in a head-to-head matchup. The first would be Theegala. The second would have been Matt Kuchar. Those are two players that I think have a lot of name recognition coming into this tournament that maybe don't have the results that look the way they should. And I know with Kuchar, for example, he's made 3 of his last 5 cuts. You really dive into some of the ball striking numbers of his, they have gone south, and they've gone south in a big way. And I think water causes a problem. Sahith has the same exact answer that I could talk to about with this. The one difference is back-to-back missed cuts. I think people are aware of where the form has moved with him. You've seen that in a lot of these markets to where he's a massive underdog, and it was tough to find a price that made sense of somebody to take against him with. But I grabbed Nicolai Højgaard at -110. That was, Højgaard kind of has that same troubling off the tee presence to where the water could be a problem with him. But the way I see Theegala's game right now when comparing the two, it's like Theegala's lost with his driver in 7 of his last 8 starts. The putter is something that always usually holds it together for him. I had this massive negative downturn inside my model when I ran it on fast bent grass greens over your standard complex that he would get weekly. Like, he went from 14th overall in my model on any course with the putter to outside the top 100 when specifically looking for this sort of a green texture here. I think if the putter struggles, he might miss his 3rd straight weekend in a row. And Højgaard just had enough ball striking acumen. Like, yeah, the inaccuracy off the tee was a problem, but the weighted proximity looked good. I really like the distance that he added to the mix. Like, he has better distance than Theegala does, even though like they're both going to be inaccurate there. And kind of my mentality with this tournament is when you're looking for cut makers, you want to try to find accuracy. So obviously for a head-to-head wager, 2 inaccurate golfers would be a dangerous game to play here. But I think for the upside numbers of it, you do want distance if you actually want to win this contest. So I know that's like a reverse answer to give for a head-to-head here, but I just think Theegala has so many problems, and Højgaard was kind of the one name that didn't get pushed up the board that it made sense at the number that I could grab him at -110. So I am also going to pass on Theegala for that reason.
Okay. And I'll bring up a name next that, well, there's 2 that I see on everyone's card that I did not expect. I thought I was doing something a little bit original. I guess not exactly with Eric Cole, but let's go Eric Cole, smash or pass. There's 2 ways that I like this. I did bet him outright. I do like that versus Spawn +100. If you did happen to see that, where are you at with Eric Cole? I've been betting him all season long, so I wasn't going to stop now. Where are you at though?
Really like Eric Cole as a player. I don't know if I love him for this tournament.
Yeah.
I am out for this event. He's going to be very popular on DFS. Like, I think he's going to probably approach 15+%, but even in the betting market, I couldn't necessarily find a way that I wanted to attack him. And I didn't think there was value in the numbers. Total driving in my model, 124th in this field. The GIR plus weighted proximity was 61st. More of that had to do with the GIR percentage for this venue than some of the weighted proximity numbers. He kind of is one of those players to me that follows that Matt Kuchar sort of a sense, to where he does a lot of work with his short game, the scrambling, the sand saves, the 3-putt percentage, the bogey avoidance. Sure, the bogey avoidance answer can help here, but you're also, like I said, when you miss, you're missing into a way that you can't salvage the score. Like, you can prevent it from becoming a triple bogey, but you're going to be making bogey or double bogey if you find the water in a lot of these situations. So I am out on Eric Cole this week. I will be very quickly back in, I'm sure, at the right venue. I'm just not so sure that some water venue with 15 holes that are going to be surrounded is exactly where I think the best fit for him would be.
Yeah, but imagine if he does stay accurate, how awesome that would be. Yeah, I'm definitely worried a little bit about the accuracy and just the setting of the water hazards. I think that, we've seen some correlations between that Mexico Open leaderboard, and he did fare well there this year. You mentioned it, the bogey avoidance. I think that's where a lot of people are, have their eyes on him for. I'm still going to ride it. That's all right. Maybe I'll be out for a little bit after this one. I'm hoping that we don't get a tournament like last weekend where it just completely goes directly towards one person. Not that I'm not excited for BK and all the guys that did have Harmon, but who you got next for me?
So let me go with a popular player this week for us to talk about. Aaron Rai, smash or pass?
It's interesting because he actually rated out as number 2 in my model, but I did not bet him. So this is going to be one of those weeks where I regret that. I am going to pass on him this week, which I probably regret. If you're watching this, I'm telling you right now, obviously rated out very well in my model, but where are you at?
I think he's a tough person for kind of the reason that you just talked about right now. I'm going to say smash because I do have an outright wager on him, but I also found it difficult of where I wanted to get my exposure on him.
Right.
He's very popular for DFS sites, and I have not made a decision if I want to overly use him there for that reason. I am leaning towards yes, just because there's so many metrics in my model that really like them. Like, he's been historically great on TPC tracks.
Right.
The weighted scoring in my model is really good. The ball striking, the weighted tee to green numbers that I'm putting together. Like, those are all the things that I'm looking for, trying to find upside here. I do think he has a very high ceiling. I think he has a relatively safe floor. To me, he's one of those options that you can consider for a matchup just as quickly as you can consider him for an outright. And that's kind of probably why I'm not going to remove him from my player pool, but very popular. One of the most popular bets in the space, one of the most popular DFS players. But I think he's a very intriguing option that this might be one of those spots where, like, not all chalk is bad. I think the public has gotten it right with Rai this week.
I think that I think when we get off of here, I will probably bet him first round leader. I don't hate the top 20. You do? Okay. I do like him first round leader. I don't hate that plus 210 for a top 20. I'm just not, I don't know what it is that's preventing me from saying absolutely smash. And I think it's just I'm hesitant of how I want to play him. But let me give you another one. Which way do you want to go with this? Why don't we go? I'm trying to give you one that. Okay, how about Cam Davis, smash or pass?
I don't have any action currently on Cam Davis, but I've made this argument before, and I may have even said it on the show with you in the past. These club down spots where there's trouble that's lurking, I really like those situations for Cam Davis. We know he has the prerequisite of distance that you want. For some reason, when you tell him, like, don't hit the driver and club down in these spots, he actually gets more upside in these situations. I am in on him. I am going to be using him for DFS. That's the only exposure that I have on him currently right now, but I have nothing bad to say about Davis. He's obviously a boom or bust sort of option. Right. I think you can find players near him on the board that make a lot of sense also, but I like him this week. And I don't mind anybody who, if they do want to put an outright on him, like, I think it certainly makes sense.
It feels like tradition to be able to bring up someone that I can say that, for lack of a better term, his putter sucks ass. And he quite literally is a definition of that. He has a solid course history there here, shot a 64, I believe, on Sunday last year. So I think I'm in on him. I haven't placed any actual money on him yet, on none of my own, but I will find a way to get some exposure to him before tomorrow. Why don't you give me one more before I get you out of here?
Perfect. So let's do, I like this player a lot this weekend, and I think he's a fun name to talk about. Smash or pass on Ryan Fox?
Interesting that you brought him up. My model does very much like him. He did burn me last week, so I am very nervous to go back to him. So you are going to have to probably convince me on this one, to be honest.
So what I like about him is I believe he is a legitimate top 40 player in the world that doesn't get treated that way. And now we're all of a sudden talking about a tournament where, we don't have the 40 best players here. So we're looking at a spot with Fox where when you put him on a difficult hole, he's producing inside my model. When you throw him with the distance that he has, he's producing inside of my model. 12 of his last 14 completed worldwide starts have landed inside the top 48 total. That's something that most people don't realize, just because a lot of that work has been done on the European Tour. He was the only golfer in my model that was outside of 40-1 that ranked inside the top 15 when looking at recalculated scoring for par 5 and par 4 recalculations here. I thought at those numbers of 60-1, 66-1, he was one of the better values in the space. And it kind of goes back to the initial answer that I gave earlier in the show, that if we're talking about pure win equity and wanting to capture the title here, I think that's where distance comes into play. It's that Cameron Champ, Matthew Wolff, Tony Finau, these are names that have won here before that have added distance to the mix to actually capture the title. Ryan Fox brings that exact same skill set as a golfer that is higher priced than any of those other names that I found that were popping in my model this week. So I really like Fox's ability to potentially win this contest. And this might be the American coming out party for him in a situation where it kind of fits his game perfectly.
Gosh, I love him. I had him top 30, top 40 last week, whatever it was. I don't know that I can get more than a top 20 to be convinced that direction. Did you bet him outright?
I did. I took him at 66-1.
Right.
I also have him in a placement market to come 48th or better.
Okay, fair. All right. Who's winning this? And then I'll let you get out of here.
I mean, Stephie, I think I give the same answer every week, no matter who's in the tournament. I'm going to say Cameron Young wins this event.
Oh my God.
I've been down this road one too many times with you. I'm the boy who cried wolf in this situation. But, he had that mid-season form where he developed his illness. Everything went south for him. He seems to be behind that now with back-to-back top 10 finishes. The ball striking inside my model just propels him to the top. You lose some of the around the green problems. He is going to have to make putts, but on these quicker, fast bent grass surfaces, he is a golfer who's found a lot of success historically in those setups. So, this is as good of a spot as any for Cam Young to win. I also think it's a nice spot for Sung Jae, just as a name I have not mentioned yet. He's another player that kind of hit a hiatus early in the middle of the season and now seems to be firing again on all cylinders. But who do you have, Stephie?
Listen here. I don't know. I like Sam Bennett. I don't care. He rated out well. It was the first click I made. I'll ride with it. No, I like Sanjay as well this week. Probably will be my last time for a little bit that I bet him. Sepp Straka wouldn't be shocking to me either. But we'll see what happens. Thanks so much, Spencer.
Stephie.